And I think people who really strive to find those things have great success in their life. When they think all the learning is within and they need to do it all and then share it out without ever being a sponge from others, I
Hmm.
think it's more difficult. I just have become a sponge over the years from learning from others.
If you're an emerging franchise founder, you already know this. The jump from 10 to 100 units is where most brands stall out. Not because the concept isn't strong, but because the founder is drowning in chaos. I'm Guy Coffey, franchisor, franchisee, and growth strategist. I've been where you are, and I know what it takes to build a brand that scales without burning out, selling out, or losing control. That's why I created the Franchise Scale Up Show. Every week, I'll share the playbooks, the red flags, and the mindset shifts to separate the brands that stall from the ones that scale. So if you're serious about protecting your vision and multiplying your brand, hit subscribe right now. This is the Franchise Scale Up Show. I'm Guy Coffey. Let's get to work. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Franchise Scale Up Show with me, Guy Coffey, and a very special guest today, Dave Mortensen of Anytime Fitness, Purpose Brands, formerly Self-Esteem Brands, and the empire that he's built. So, Dave, welcome to the show.
Guy, I'm excited to be here. Thanks.
Well, it is a pleasure to have you on. I kind of teased this on the socials, on the interwebs, and got a lot of feedback. You have a lot of fans and everything that you've done, whether it's people in Purpose Brands, family, which is gigantic, global, actually can't get any bigger than that, or people just that are interested in this journey that you've taken on, you and Chuck, and building and growing and scaling every step of the way in a good way. And it all starts, I think, with culture. And you've just written a book on it, Franchise Your Franchise, which is a fantastic book. If anybody wants to hear about a journey in franchising or business, it is a great read. But if you wouldn't mind, this session will be on two things. Number one, culture, like real culture, like the positive sides, the fun side, and also the accountability side. And then a little bit about how Dave has learned the skills requisite to go from owning a health club in Minnesota in 2001 to being on 7 continents, 35 plus countries, and being a global ambassador and giving back through the IFA board positions and Hall of Fame nominations and things like that. So if you wouldn't mind starting us out with the culture aspect, Dave, and how you and Chuck, whether consciously or unconsciously, prioritize that right from the start.
You know, it's funny. I love that question. Chuck and I have been partners for 35 plus years, right? We've been partners for a very, very long time, and we can probably speak each other's words, but we're completely different individuals, but we've used it to our strength. And the strength we've always valued each other. And that value was expanded across our whole organization because I just value human input. I value the insights that others bring to the table. When you have that kind of appreciation, you can do some wonderful things. For Chuck and I, it was natural because we like to have a playful environment, right? We have forever. And we developed our first book was called Love Work, and it really developed around our 4 Ps, around caring about people and putting a people first mentality, obviously leading with purpose in what you do each and every day, and understanding that people will do much more for you living in purpose than they do in finance, right? But
Yeah.
we also had profits. We put profits, and now we even have it called as performance. If it's profits or performance, the only difference between the two is one is the drivers to drive profits, which is the performance metrics. But you have to have discipline around that, and we have to remind people that, you know what, without that P, the rest of this doesn't happen. And then we have our playful environment, our 4th P. And when we talk about culture, culture is not, and I think the biggest mistake people make in culture is they do all the right things to set themselves up to have a high performance culture, but they don't turn it into a verb and live it. And that's where the real talent is. And not only live it, but evolve it. Every year, it needs to be a tactical strategy of an organization to think about, how is our culture today? How do we want to improve it? What are our core values, and how are we going to put tactical things in place to continue to grow as an organization? Because you're going to change. And if you're not changing as your organization changes, you're going to lose yourself.
This is a quick break to thank you for listening. Every week, we are getting more and more people listening to the show, and this growth is helping me to improve it and make it even more helpful to you.
My intention for this show is to help more people win in business and life. To that end, I have a favor to ask. If you know of an entrepreneur that would benefit, please hit the share button and shoot them a text with the link. Back to the show. Make this a great day.
Yeah, I think you nailed it there for sure. And just being as part of your organization since 2006, there's a saying, real leaders have this approach where if it's a win, it's we, and if it's a loss, it's me.
Yeah.
And, that part of the culture is not just, you and I have a million stories about the early days of Anytime Fitness and the craziness that happened and the fun and the relationships that were built and things like that. But, two things stand out to me on my journey with you guys. And that is, there's also an accountability factor that,
Mhm.
that you guys, I didn't even realize it the first time I saw it. We were in Park City in 2007, I think, for the third conference.
Yep.
And things were not going well with a portion of the business, Apex, back then.
Yep.
And I remember this, and I'm not bringing this up to embarrass you at all. It's like,
You couldn't embarrass me.
this is a seminal moment. It's like some people were really upset. You knew that at the conference, and there was a fun festival kind of thing going on, and there was a dunk tank. And you
I
went
love
in
that you're bringing this up, by the way.
You went in that dunk tank, and I was like, man, people lined up to throw that ball until you get dunked. And I was like, it took me probably a long, years to figure out, like, holy cow, right in the moment, I was like, that's a gutsy move. But later on, I was like, that's a leadership move. And then a few years after that, we had another kind of misstep in the system. And it was the Anytime Fitness foods, the health foods and things like
Yep.
that. And it didn't go as planned. And you and Chuck stood on the stage, and I think that was in Atlanta, or I don't remember where it was. And you guys addressed that first and foremost in the conference. Like, your keynote speech was like, hey, like, this is what we did. And would we do that exact thing again? No, but will we keep on taking chances and moving this brand forward into waters that we don't know are going to work all the time? And I was like, that was a gutsy move. And it just shut everything down in terms of, people being upset about it. I had a closet full of bad bars and posters and things like that.
Yeah.
And it was like, yeah, but you guys stood up there like, yes, we are a young brand. We are going to try things, and we're not 100%. We've never been down this path before. So I think that culture people think about, especially with Anytime, that the lines at the tattoo shop at the conference and all the fun and the craziness. But there's also this like real feeling of, we play hard, we work hard, and yeah, we're going to try things out, and not everything's going to work. Get used to it. Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think you guys
Absolutely.
led with examples of the accountability
I
factor.
love some of the things you talk about. Like that dunk tank was probably one of the most humbling moments of my life. And just for the listeners, we had a technology company, and it was doing a lot of great things, but had a lot of holes in it. And those holes were costing people money. We knew this, and we needed to make some change with it. And at the time, I as one of the founders, was trying to fix those holes and those gaps. But going through the process, early leaders, we're all player coaches when we're early leaders. There's a lot of people that'll be listening to this, they're player coaches, right? We are in it. In fact, we believe we're the hardest working people in the business. And sometimes we get enamored with ourselves, and we get enamored with what we're doing. And we're really good at telling people we're good at things. And when you become too good at selling yourself, rather than really evaluating yourself, that's when you start to run into gaps. And we realized, okay, we need to be true to ourselves. We need to be true to our network. And one of the best things leaders learn is humility and transparency. And candor and transparency. It's okay to tell people, hey, we're not going to have everything right. One of the first things I tell new franchisees is, listen, you know what? This is more about a relationship than a product, because this relationship 5 years from now will not look the same, and neither will this business. And the trust and transparency and candor we have to have together is going to be really, really important. So understanding transparency and understanding how to share that with your network and bringing people along is really, really important. And that was a big learning lesson early on in our days.
Yeah. Yeah. And you lived it and showed it and grew from it. I mean, look at it now. Those hiccups in the beginning, they were overcome and everything has worked out fantastically.
Here's a well-known secret, that a secret everyone should know. In the seat I have today, I get an opportunity to see some of the greatest brands in the world, right? And all over the place. Being a part of the International Franchise Association you brought up, and being a part of the board of directors, I get to sit in front of them, and I have a network of really good friends running great businesses. But I'm going to tell everyone on the call, there isn't a business out there that doesn't have holes, doesn't have gaps, and doesn't have problems. It's never perfect. And it'll always evolve, and it's going to forever change as the world changes. And we have to be up for that challenge, because the day you think you're perfect, it's the day you need to retire, because that never happens.
Yeah, exactly. And that's coming from you, who's built this fantastic thing, and you see it every day in your role now, helping others on the path. Recently, I did an event, and we had 9 founders in the room, really intimate setting. And beforehand, I had asked everybody what their biggest challenge was so that we could address it. And virtually every one of them thought their challenge was unique to them and their system. and
Yep.
and I'm not laughing at them, because we all have been in that same boat, but that's the power of people saying things out loud and having people around them that can help them navigate it. So the learnings that you have in your head and in your books and just in your journey are many, and it's good to tap into that. So yeah, the culture thing, just one other thing on that. I know, like, at the corporate headquarters, you've got the street signs out there with the 4 signs, with the 4
Yep.
Ps. And you guys have gone through a lot of changes, over the years since 2002, moving on and growing domestically so fast, then growing internationally. And it was interesting. The first step into the international waters was a bit of a challenge. And now you're in 35 countries and have figured all that out, and they're doing well. You purchased by Rourke and kept on growing a lot internationally. Is how do you remind people? Because it's not about teaching people. Sometimes it's just that we all get off our track and we get down rabbit holes and all those kind of things, that, hey, there is a culture here, and this is how we reinforce it on a daily basis.
Well, there's 2 parts to that, right? Let me start with the culture side of it, because that's the part you were asking about. I think culture is really important, that you have to start in your home office, right? A lot of people build all these things for culture, even inside their franchise system. But if you go into their corporate office, you don't see the same environment. You need to lead by example. And I say this all the time. You need to lead by example and be living it. And where you're going to feel it, it's not when you walk in, is you see it when you walk in, right? You brought it up. Hey, there's road signs that talk about the people, purpose, profits, play. There's like quotes, and there's core values, and there's all of these great things that we provide from a cultural sense. But it's when you start to hear it. It's when people come into your office and have never been in there, and by the end of the day, they're walking up to you. The greatest gifts I get are some of the comments where they go, I can't believe how it is so transparent across the people in your organization, and how they're all living that example. Because so many times you walk into a corporate office and you go, oh, wait a minute, this feels really different than what they say they do. And you need to own that. And owning that culture and living that culture is so important. And I think as you evolve and evolving that culture, and that's the mistake we talked about earlier. You talk about global expansion. I can share so many stories of mistakes I've made globally in learning how to different cultures. I mean, I was a gentleman out of Minnesota that my furthest travel might have been Wisconsin at one time, right? So to actually start to go to other cultures like Australia, I mean, people would sneeze and I would say, well, Gesundheit, or God bless you. And they'd laugh at me, and I didn't know why. Well, that isn't a part of their culture, for an example. So small, but so important. And we as humans sometimes think culture is everything around us. And culture is actually in reverse when you travel. When you go into someone else's culture, it's about actually infusing yourself and respecting their culture. An example would be going to Japan. You go into Japan, and it's about the way they present things when you go into a restaurant or you go somewhere. But if you're expecting speed of service, we're such a fast food company. We expect, hey, someone better be in 3 seconds. They better bring us our food, all these things. It's not like that. And the honor system they have in the way they deliver things is completely different. But if you embrace others' cultures, you'll strengthen your own. And now we've just been able to learn that over the years, but it takes time.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think going into it with eyes wide open and just wanting to respect other people's cultures is the starting point, because people, if they know the kind of heart you have, they'll forgive you for some transgressions if you don't know everything about their culture, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have to be able to laugh at yourself quite often. Chuck and I always say the most important thing in leadership is being able to have self-awareness. As a leader, if you're not self-aware of who you are, what your capabilities are, what your organizational capabilities are, it's going to be really, really hard. And then you got to check your ego at the door. We as leaders have some massive, massive egos, and checking those egos aside to allow others to grow and shine around you is really important as a leader.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. So speaking of Chuck, one of the questions I got from the audience was there ever a time in the evolution of Anytime Fitness where you and Chuck didn't have the same vision for what the next step was? And if so, I know you guys are like this. I remember even after we started out with you and it grew really fast, when we started out with you down in Hastings, it was like, I walked in, I'm like, man, they got a lot of empty space in this building. And then like 4 years later, it was packed to the brim and you couldn't get in there, like couldn't get a parking spot or anything like that. But, you guys grew so fast and so successfully. And you guys are both, I think the overall consensus is you're both wicked smart. You both have gigantic hearts. You both want to give back. Chuck, maybe more the harder side of the equation, and you the more emotional side of the equation. You guys have both, but like even more. I remember it. I know that's one of your strengths is I remember you at conferences getting choked up talking about success stories and things. And as I mentioned before we started, my son, who's working for Anytime Fitness down in Australia, and he was at their conference and he's like, I've cried 4 times in this thing already. Like, what's going on with this business thing that I'm crying at? But so you guys are, like this, best buds, 35 years, obviously a successful journey, but there must be times where maybe you saw the business going one way and he saw it another. Was there? And if so, how did you guys work that out?
Oh, that's a great question. Let me first say, are you talking about today, yesterday, a week ago, a month ago? Chuck and
It never
I,
ends.
it never ends. In over 35 plus years of business partnership, if there's something that we probably bring a value to people, is how to be a great partner. I'm serious when I say I've got the best business partner when it comes. I don't think I could ask for one. And I think he'd probably share the same about me. We literally share the same respect. And he's one of my mentors in my life. And I believe I've been able to be a mentor in his life. He's become probably a more heart first person than I've ever seen over the years. And I've been a more thoughtful person in my approach and the way I deal with things over the years, which is a strength, just a massive strength of Chuck's. But that being said, our belief system is never just to conjoin an idea. And what I mean by that is, well, in any idea, my job, if Chuck has an idea, is to tell him it sucks. And vice versa. His job, if I have an idea, is to tell me it sucks, but not in the essence to break the other person down, but to strengthen the idea in itself. Because Chuck and I, at the end of the day, will get aligned on an idea, but it takes time. And there are times we've disagreed. There's times we vehemently disagreed. But our rule of thumb is if you say no, it's no. If I say no, it's no. So at some point in time, we are going to have to agree on something. Now, here's the beauty of what we've learned over the years. And this is important for anyone on the call. The idea is important. The strategic vision of what you build is important. but I'll tell you, it's only 10% of its success, if that.
Okay.
Because where the value comes is the way you execute it. Because an executable idea is where most ideas fail. It's not because the idea was bad, it's because you didn't do it that well. And that's really, really common in business. But we all want to just blame the idea. Over the last 35 years, I can promise you, Chuck and I have never once looked at each other and said, I told you so. We don't do that.
Yeah.
And
Right.
that is what's made our strength, is because we're going to disagree every day on something. But at some point in time, we're going to point in a direction. If it's Chuck's idea or if it's my idea, it doesn't matter. In fact, let's say you and I were business partners and it was your idea and we're going to go your direction. My job isn't just to support you, which is what everyone says. My job is to prove it right. My job is to go execute it and prove it right. Because at the end of the day, where we learn the most is the mistakes along the way. Mistakes are the greatest gift you'll ever receive if you're learning from them. The only mistake truly in life is the one you keep doing over and over and over again. That's
Yeah.
what I call a mistake. A
Yeah.
failure along the way, if you don't think you're going to fail, and if you're not failing, guess what? You're not working that hard.
Yeah.
Failure should be happening every day. So having that mindset and that belief system and that support system around each other, I couldn't tell you what idea was Chuck's. He probably can't tell you. Well, we just don't look at it that way. We look at how we living the journey together and how are we learning together. So yeah, when you asked me, did you guys ever disagree on stuff? We probably disagreed today on something. We disagree all the time, but that is and we want our teams to disagree with us. We want our teams to challenge us. We don't want people just to follow us. We want people to strengthen the idea in every part of our network. But at the end of the day, when a decision is made, that is when we align and we go forward. Once you've made a decision, you don't change the decision, you go execute it. And
Yeah.
that's where failure happens too, is sometimes we go, I may say as a partner, I want to go that direction, but I really don't. And I'm not bought into it. So I'm not working that hard to prove it out right.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
that's where failure can happen. So it's never the decision, it's how we execute.
Yeah. One of the things that I see in this journey is you guys always move really fast.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if you have a sense of urgency, which is one of the things that I talk to people that are in business and are trying to grow. One of the things that I always talk about is like move fast and iterate fast.
Yep.
And it's also a way of reducing, the sting when something doesn't happen the way you want it to. It's like, yeah, we pulled the trigger on that. We move fast and we got a ton of clarity when that thing crashed and burned,
Yep.
and then we don't like sit there and point the fingers at each other. Like you said, like, okay, very clear that was not the way to go. Like, what are we doing next? Let's move fast on that thing.
Yeah.
And that's something I've seen you guys do over the years since 2006.
We have been, there have been times we've been too fast. There's times we've been too slow on things. We tend, just because our behavior is always to speed over execution. We've always said it's never going to be perfect. So if we're close, but I'll tell you what, in the world today, and I'll go political with you for just a second. And I'm not a politics person, but everything in the world is too far left or it's too far right at the end of the day. And the more and more I'm learning in life, there's a learned lesson I'm going through even today, is the more closer to the center we can get, the further we will drive. And what I mean by that is, yes, you want speed, but you want to be as close to the center of that speed execution as you can, because execution's on the other side. So the closer we can get to the center of that, the better we are. Now, if we're closest to the center as possible, then leaning towards the fast side is good. But if you are so far left on the speed side and execution is horribly done, guess what? You can't go farther left and go faster. You need to then slow it down. Having an awareness of how far left or how far right you are very important as you're bringing everyone to the center.
That brings up another question. That's fantastic point. How does somebody find out if they're like, how do they find out if they're going too far right or too far left? Or is that you had a co-founder and you guys would talk every day? I mean, you guys spend a ton of time together. One of my overused sayings is everything happens in a conversation, and just seeing you and Chuck over the last, whatever, 18 years is like, you guys talk a lot. Like I've seen you guys sit in your office and sit there and talk, and like, yeah, they're working. Actually, they're just talking, probably chirping each other and
Yeah, we call it our
that.
coffee chat. I still to this day on a regular basis have a coffee chat with Chuck almost every day. And we work from our home offices. Listen, we're semi-retired. We have the teams that are running the businesses. We sit on the board, but there isn't a day that we probably don't communicate or connect. And connection and relationship is really, really important, but we don't waste time in it. I mean, our connection points could be 30 to 60 minutes max, and they can be some of the most valuable or some of the most wasteful times we've ever spent, but they've always brought forward movement, because sometimes it's kind of like a bad workout. Have you ever had a bad workout before where you had a bad workout, but guess what? You still got the workout in.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have to have the reps. So reps are really important in life, and being able to do that and understand that is a value. I would share with you, I think the most important thing for everyone on the call when they're building a business is we get enamored with what we are doing, but we don't get enamored with the execution. We don't get enamored with the results. And I'm a very outcome focused person. Even if big leaders and everything present big cases to me, if they don't lead with what outcomes we're looking to achieve, I'll probably send them out of the room, because I don't want to know how we're going to make something till I know what we are going to accomplish. Because if you don't have a lens of your goal, your end goal in mind first, guess what? Then what you're doing is just wasting time. And we do a lot of really cool things. We all have done really, really cool things in our lives. And sometimes we don't know the end result of what we created. Well, then, you know what? It looked nice. It was fun, but it wasn't executing very high.
Right. Your ladder could be leaned against the wrong wall completely.
And I have baseline outcomes that I want to achieve along the way. So it's not just the end result. It's how are we going to measure those outcomes along the way? It's the journey again. And if we have metrics to measure those outcomes, those are the times you iterate. Those are the times you make change. Those are the times you supplement it with ideas and creativity. But if you only do it at the beginning and at the end, the middle is going to be mucky and you'll never have something polished.
Right. Right. All right. Well, I'm going to switch this to another thing that I know that I always want to know from leaders who have grown something, especially as big as you have. And that is your learning style. Specifically is, in 2001, you and Chuck had a membership marketing company, gym marketing company, and a gym or two, full service gyms. And you looked around and said, most people just use the weights and the cardio. Like, why don't we start a little thing with that and do it 24 hours? And then I know the biggest challenge back then was finding someone to insure it. And you guys did that, and then you grew it, and it grew, super fast, and you had this great model, and it was going. And a lot of people would flame out at that. Like, well, we saw one of your Minnesota, well, it's not even, well, I guess they're a competitor, but at one point in time, Snap was like on our heels or something like that. And now, I mean, they're national, but nowhere near as what Anytime has done. And I remember you guys standing on stage, and when we were doing really good already, like the growth was amazing. You guys were getting accolades and all the franchising magazines. And, I know that this is well before you guys got Global Franchise of the Year and top fitness franchise on the face of the planet, which is kind of a big deal. If you really kind of let that sink in, I'm sure you have. But
Once
you guys
in a
are
while.
like, yeah, you guys are like, we're doing pretty good. Like, we are the convenience model. But at some point in the future, we're going to have big clubs that are also going to have convenience. They're going to be 24 hours. And that's where we are today. It's happened a few years ago now, but I was like, we're doing pretty good. Like, why change it? So my question is, sorry, that was a really long way of getting to this question.
No, go
My
ahead.
point is, like, you knew how to market things. You knew how to run a club. Then you had this crazy idea. You've never been a franchisee in your life. And you're like, hey, let's start a franchise. It's a fun fact that a lot of people don't know that you guys were never a franchisee. You guys just had this idea for a franchisor and got really good at it. But along the way, you guys have gone from, we're big in Minnesota, we're big nationally, and now we're doing this. It's like, how did you learn? I remember talking to Chuck, we were in Cleveland for a John DeJulius thing, and he was talking about the numbers that you have to have for, in order to be attractive to a private equity company. And I'm looking at him like, you are the bottom 10% of your class. Like, how do you know this stuff now? Like, did you guys have mentors along the way? I don't know that you guys have. I mean, resources or some kind of divine intervention. Like, how did you guys leap from being good gym operators to being great franchise developers to playing in the shark waters of private equity and doing really well in it?
Well, first, I want to know how you knew that I was bottom 10% of my class, because you're absolutely right. No,
I went to Minot State and I looked it up.
This guy didn't even graduate. What are you talking about? No, you know what learning is? Let me give you something that I think a lot of people, they want to look outside versus inside when it comes to learning. And I think learning starts inside first, and then you can go outside. And what I mean by that is you have to have the right mindset. I'm not just talking about a learner's mindset. What are the value points of a learner's mindset? And how are you going to create that? Some learners' mindsets are an example. Great learners usually aren't a half glass empty person. They're a half glass full person. They are looking at the positives and the opportunities that face and for them, not looking for it. Both are important. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes you have to look at it from okay, what mistakes are we making? So there's having the right mindset, to me, is really, really important. I have a winner's mentality. This is something that Chuck and I have had forever. We are super ridiculously competitive. Like, we want to win. We want to win, and not just we, but everybody around us. We want everyone winning. And how do we put everyone in it? So having a winner's mindset puts you in the right mindset to go figure things out. Now, for me, and we all do it differently. Like, Chuck is a just ferocious reader, right? He reads all the time, all the time. I'm like the guy, I love Twitter versions of everything. Like an app I look at all the time. It's called Blinkist. If you've never heard of Blinkist, it is an app that you get the Twitter versions of books. And I love getting the meat and potatoes. I'm less fluff, more meat and potatoes when I need to receive things. But where I get my most learning is from two things. One, I'm always with my mindset, always looking at how do we learn from mistakes that have happened and how do we make sure we don't make them repeatable. And I'm a human connector. So for me, I put myself around some of the most intelligent, some of the most gracious people, but I'm also a sponge with every human being possible. I believe you can learn from a 2-year-old if you're willing to learn from them. And there's something to be learned from your customers. There's something to be learned from your staff. There's something to be learned from mentors who have done this before. And I'm eager to learn from anyone. And when you have that kind of mindset and you're looking to just get nuggets of information from everyone out there and you're willing to go look for it, that is the kind of winner's mindset. And I think people who really strive to find those things have great success in their life. When they think all the learning is within and they need to do it all and then share it out without ever being a sponge from others, I think it's more difficult. I just have become a sponge over the years from learning from others. So when you talk about private equity, you bet I met with people that I knew private equity and would ask them questions. But you also have to, and this is important, you have to assess your own opinion on things too. You have to have an opinion, because if you don't put an opinion in place and you don't share that opinion, you'll never learn from it. So by putting that opinion out there, it allows, and you want others to challenge those opinions and you're listening, you will learn more, because you can put an opinion. If you always hold your opinion inside, you never learn if it's right or if it's wrong. And you know what? There's not necessarily always a right or wrong. So you got to learn from that as well. So just having that constant mindset. And if I could teach anyone on this podcast or others, is I'm just a person who always wants to listen and understand why someone else does something. And I'm intrigued by it.
That's really interesting. Just the two founders' approaches to learning. And I've seen you in action over the years, talking with all sorts of people, and like you're 100% engaged.
Present is important.
Yeah. But the other thing that I've never actually heard before, which I'm going to take for my own learning, is be a sponge, do this, but the foundation and the rock that you stand on at the start, you got to be willing to get off of that rock, is your opinion on it.
Yeah.
That's the grounding factor to see if like this person has been further down the path. They're telling me something different. They've had the success in this. So that compares to my opinion. It matches it. Awesome. It doesn't match it. Maybe I should go with their opinion and not my opinion.
Right. It's shaping your opinion and
Yeah.
always making sure you have a stance in it. Because
Yeah.
if you're just taking everyone else's stance all the time in everything that you do,
You're
well, then who are
shape-shifting.
you?
Yeah, you're
Exactly.
shape-shifting. Like the last
Exactly.
person's opinion is the one that you're going to spout. Like, no, that doesn't
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
That's really
When you
good.
meet, yeah, when people read all the time, I always look at people when they read a book and I say, what'd you get out of it? Because for me, that's why I look for those little nuggets out of everything.
Mm-hmm.
And what is a little nugget I'll take and provide and put into my arsenal of opinion. But you don't read everything and absorb everything. And if we just keep reading and reading and reading, but never place it in a place of action,
Mm-hmm.
you'll never do anything with it.
Yeah. And that starts with your opinion,
Yeah.
shaped by
Yeah.
others. That's great. Thank you for sharing that. That's one of the major nuggets I'm taking out of this conversation. So thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah. And then just to land the plane here, I had a question from Shelly Thompson, fitness related.
Yep.
And that is, I'm not gonna mention all the questions about, people trying to create problems, like saying who would win in a 50-yard dash, Dave or Chuck, who would win
I
in
would.
a 400-meter, who would win in a wrestling match. I think we know that answer.
Yeah.
But this one is fitness related, and it is, what do you see as the next big evolution in fitness? And this is from someone in the fitness industry that's got a big stake in it, for her and her family.
Oh, this is a great question. And I love this question. And we all know, I think in the industry, there's a lot of different directions people can go. But I'm going to just share with you where the people that win this war is going to be really simple. There are exercises and there are workouts and there are transformational things we've been doing for years. But I'll tell you, to get fit, the stuff we were doing 30 years ago still works. We're just realizing today, and you'll like this one, we're just realizing today that strength is more important than cardio. And a lot of people go, why? Why are people looking at it today? And I'm going to share with you why. You may laugh at this, and I think your audience will laugh. It's really simple. There's one person that has moved more people into the weight room than any other person. Do you know who it is?
I don't.
Kim Kardashian.
Oh, I would not have guessed
Why?
Kim Kardashian.
But why? What is Kim Kardashian known for?
I think
The
she's
gluteus maximus,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Now, what happened by that is others went, I wanted to build my own glute. Now, hers was paid for, to be very blunt with you, but I will say fitness people are doing it in the weight room. And that brought who into the weight room? It brought women into the weight room, which also made men realize I need to do more in the weight room as well. And we're
Mhm.
leading with strength today, which it excites me to see that. We've known this for 40 years, and it took Kim Kardashian to get people to actually do it. So there's just little lessons and nuggets you learn into the world of why things happen. The most important piece of equipment in the gym today isn't the treadmill anymore. It's the
Yeah.
little flat bench that adjusts from 0 to 90 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
It's just
Yeah.
true. Everyone's looking for that piece of equipment so they can put their knee on it. They can sit on it. They can do all sorts of things. They can jump on it if they want. It's a great piece of equipment.
Yeah.
And it's $400 versus $6,000. It's a big
Right.
difference in cost.
Yeah.
My lesson, though, forward for fitness and wellness is who's going to win the war in this is the one who understands human behavior better than anyone else and gets ahead of it. That's why AI is such a beautiful thing today. People have to understand AI will teach us things that we never knew before. And I always like giving little examples. AI taught us a really, really important lesson. If someone's coming in 2 to 3 days a week at a fitness gym today, and they start coming in 4 to 5 days a week, what does that mean? You know what that means? They're probably going to cancel. And everyone goes, what? They're coming more. Why would they cancel? I'll tell you why. It's because when someone's coming 2 to 3 days a week, all of a sudden they come 4 or 5 days a week, they're wanting to do more. But then they're not asking for help. They're not getting a trainer. They're not getting the results they're looking for. So rather than maintaining 5 and going back down to 3, they go to 0 because they get frustrated because it was too hard. We have to meet people in the journey where they are in their health and wellness. AI will help us understand the behaviors of our consumer better. And the better we know our consumers, the better we can serve them up with the things they need to drive better results. And that's where we're going to win that war.
That's interesting. I would not have thought of the 5 to 6 day person being at risk unless it's like a long time user and they've had that pattern for a long time.
If they've been coming 5 to 6 days and that's their regular, then they're fine. They're not at risk. It's when they've been coming for a very long time at 2 to 3 times a week, and all of a sudden they come 4 to 5 times a week. They're really wanting, what they're doing is they want more results. Now, if all of a sudden they got a message that said, hey, we noticed you've been coming in more. How have the workouts been doing? We'd love to connect you with a trainer so our trainer could share some new exercises you could do to enhance the workouts that you're executing on. All of a sudden they're talking to a trainer, and the next thing you know, they're buying personal training and they're doing the things they need and they're seeing the results they want, and they stay a long-term member for a very, very long time. But that's just one example of many things. We need to understand our consumers better. AI will give us the insights we need, no different than when you're asking it to give us information. We need it to help us steer and understand the behavior of consumers so we can meet them at their needs.
Yeah, that makes sense. AI will provide better data, not for us to run, just for us to run the gyms to help people get the result that they're looking for in the gym, but also the data that people have on wearables and things like that. Like, how hard did I work out? Like, it felt really hard, but the data doesn't show that. Or, I have a mattress that gives me my heart rate variability and my breathing rate. It's like, it can tell me like you are overtraining, although it hasn't given me that message recently. Been busy working on, the business, and we're earning Club Purple. So, well, Dave, this has been fantastic. I really appreciate you taking the time and sharing your knowledge and your journey and those nuggets of information and how you learn with our audiences, mostly people in franchising, a lot of founders and people trying to build their businesses. So this is universally applicable, whether you're in fitness or franchising or just building a business or just trying to get better. So you've again helped out people around you and helped people win, which is one of your competitive streaks. So I really appreciate you and thank you so much.
Well, Guy, it's easy. Your audience already feels this way. I'm a fan of yours. I'm a fan of your families, and I really enjoyed our time today.
Thanks so much, Dave.
Thank you.
That wraps up today's episode of the Franchise Scale Up Show. If this gave you a strategy you can put into play, please share it with one founder who needs the help. You might save them months of pain. If you're ready to go deeper, whether it's building your support infrastructure, accelerating territory sales, or preparing for private equity, go to guycoffey.com. That's GUYCOFFEY, and book a free franchise growth strategy call. I only partner with founders who are committed to scaling without losing control. If that's you, I'd love to connect. Until next time, protect your vision, move fast, and scale smart. I'm Guy Coffey. Talk soon.